What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Fandom Empire Live. You're going to have to bear with my voice, a little under the weather. Joined by just a wonderful panel of people today with a bunch of good topics to dive into. Some topics I certainly wasn't expecting. Those joining me tonight, man to my left, right, left. I'm getting my left and right confused. It's Kieran. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much. Doing pretty good today, actually. I've had a good, fun couple of days at work, and yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty interested to talk about some of these things. Some of these things are some of these things I'm pretty interested to talk about. So I'm I'm half excited to be here. Only half.
He's only half. I blame Randy. No, I'm kidding. Also joining us, Randy.
Hey, it's not my fault. Don't be blaming me for this stuff here. But oh, good Lord, did my civic duty today. So just pray for us down here in the States. It's gonna be crazy. It's all I can say.
Well, I mean, not everybody's going to get their way, but I hope as many people can be happy with whatever happens. Is all I'll say on that. Also joining us, it's Johnny. Obviously, man, I don't know if you want to touch on anything on air, but you're going through a tough time right now, and hopefully we can turn the frown upside down and have a great show and provide you with the form of escapism that we've been providing people with for 10 fucking years. More if you include the hockey. The mute monster has Johnny again.
No, he's
No?
he's not here. I'm looking at like 4 different things at once. No, I'm we got a lot to talk about tonight. I'm excited for it.
Okay, so I'm sitting there Halloween Day, and the Halloween Portal website launches. And it's like, okay, well, let's check this out. They've been hyping it up all year. And it's the most surface level, basic bullshit that I could have whipped together in honestly a couple of days on Wix. Just a complete disappointment. At least thus far, anyway. But the one thing we had heard is when Halloween Portal launches, we might get some news on the Halloween TV series. Well, nothing officially was ever dropped on Halloween Portal. However, unfortunately, one of the major trades did a interview with Jamie Lee Curtis about various things and her importance to the holiday in this time of year in Hollywood. And they ended it with, "Would you ever return to Halloween again?" And she alluded to her being, retired and done with it. And then she stopped and paused. She's like, "But I'm 65 years old now, and I know not to, or to never say never." And she literally ended the interview with that, hung up, disconnected. And I was just like, I felt like I got punched through a screen. Um, so now, where do we stand with this? Like, does anybody want to see Jamie Lee Curtis in yet another Halloween project, let alone the TV series? Like, even if she's playing a different character at this point, like, can we not move past Jamie Lee Curtis?
It's an interesting point, the way that you pose it too, is like not I mean, do we want to see her back in a Halloween project? There's obviously probably still quite a bit of love for her, and probably quite a bit of hate for the last trilogy or how it ended. But you saying, can they move without her, is a really interesting point. Like, is she just so much part of the Halloween franchise that they just, like, every time she's like, hey, or we're making another one, are they just going to ask her every time and be like, you're part of this? And even if she did play a different role, maybe she plays a doctor in the, or someone who works in the facility or whatever, and maybe it's even just a small role, and I would be okay with that. I mean, I don't think I don't think it would be my pick, but I would be okay with it. And as far as her returning in any way as Laurie, I don't see how it makes sense. I don't, I would definitely not want that. I wouldn't want that even less. I would say probably don't want her in it. Okay if she's in it. If she somehow returns to her part, I don't know how timeline whatever is going to happen in this, but I almost want no part of that. It's interesting the way you pose the question, I'd say.
I mean, from my perspective, it could be the popular opinion or unpopular opinion, but I feel like in ends, Laurie Strode should have died. I mean, I thought that's where we were headed anyway, because that's the way you pass the torch is, having the main character meet a fitting end that's, works with the character. But in this respect, I don't think it would work. I don't think it would work bringing a Laurie Strode character back. I do not believe it's going to help the franchise any. There's no way for this franchise to grow if she can constantly is always inserting herself into the franchise and being a part of it. I believe that her time has passed and that it's really time to hand it off to someone new. That's the only way this is going to grow. It's the only way we're going to continue to get new stories. And I don't want to sit there and say, well, she needs to, essentially pass away for this to happen. But, we don't want that. But it's just the idea that the character itself, just no Laurie Strode. We don't need that. And she just kind of needs to stay away. Her time has come and gone. She's made her mark. It's time for fresh blood.
I'm going to come at this from a slightly different tack, and I'm going to quote a character from another famous movie. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. I really don't. Whether she's there or not there doesn't affect me so much. Like, it is a character that is so firmly ensconced in the horror annals. Laurie Strode is the only character that is sort of equal to in every way, shape, and form of the slasher icon she's paired with. You know, Jason doesn't have a character like that. Freddy doesn't have a character like that. No other horror character has a character that closely associated with them that they can keep popping up in all of these different projects and it be either a positive or a negative depending on, you know, who you are, where you sit, and what you think. So I don't, you know, personally, do I want her there? I don't care if she's there. I care about the writing, I care about the directing, I care about the direction. Those are the things I care about, not so much the acting. It's when, you know, people start influencing those other parts that, you know, we have our issues. And if she wants to come back to just be Laurie or just be part of the production as an actress, great, because she's good at that. As, you know, a producer, someone with tendrils in the writing room, not so much, because you don't exactly have a good track record of that. So, like, you know, I don't care one way or the other until I see it. You know, like on its face, her coming back, okay, that's fine. Laurie's still alive in the canon. That makes sense. Because no matter what, as long as you keep producing forward, unless you sort of reboot the canon, go backwards, do something else in a different time period or something like that, there's always going to be, where's Laurie? You're not going to be able to shake that because Laurie is so ensconced as a part of this story. So until either the character is killed, Jamie Lee Curtis passes away, or they reboot the franchise, you're always going to have that question, no matter what it is, as long as it's a product moving forward. When you go backwards, you don't have to ask those questions. You can ask where's Laurie and sort of the ephemeral. You can recast if you go down that road, or just not have her part of the series. And it won't be missed outside of the peripheral. But if you move forward, that question's always going to be there. And I don't know. I don't know if her being there or not being there does more damage to the films. So it's, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And let the chips fall where they may. That's where I'm at.
I was hoping we could find Laurie Strode, you know, in a wood chipper or something. But, like, look, I don't want it. I don't want it at all. And whether there's anything to this or not, who knows? I don't like that it's coming from a major trade, though. I don't like that, you know, it's from somewhere like that, and not, you know, mom and Bob's, you know, basement blog or whatever. But it really worries me that there could be something to this, simply because a lot of people that, you know, I know of anyways, were expecting some sort of official announcement from Trancas and Miramax in the month of October. And it never happened. And they waited till the last possible minute to launch Halloween Portal, which clearly could have been done many, 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 many months ago with how little work was put into it. This screams to me more is happening behind the scenes. And, like, even if it's, like, think about it this way, even if it's, we've attached Jamie Lee Curtis to executive produce. Now, a lot of the times in deals like that, it's in name only. It's to attach someone's name to the project, and then they have very little to do with it. But Jamie Lee Curtis isn't that kind of person. If you're making her an executive producer, you can damn well bet that she's going to have a big say in what Johnny alluded to prior, is the writing and the direction, and like, I'm sorry, but that is a hard fucking pass for me. They get a pass from me for Halloween Ends. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people do, but you go that route twice in a row, it's not going to end well.
No, I mean, I agree with you. It's definitely one of those things where it's a slippery slope where, depending on how she's utilized, will really determine um, just how many to me it's like determines just how the story is going to go. If she's trying to interject herself in a big way that affects the story, I agree, definitely no. Uh, and I'm going to say this about Ends. It was an okay movie, but the fact that you took so much focus off of Michael Myers in a Halloween film, that just didn't jive well with me. But that's my opinion. So I just hope that if it's true, that it's more of a, maybe as a storyteller. You can always have someone that's, you could have her as Laurie, since we know she was writing a book. It could be one of her stories, a tale, like a Tales of the Boogeyman sort of thing, where it's just, who knows. But as far as writing goes, yeah, she doesn't need to be a part of that.
Wait. So you're suggesting doing a Laurie Strode show where she's reading the stories, but the stories aren't actually Michael Myers?
No. I wasn't talking about that. I'm talking about, if you're going to bring her in, it's just like a flat. You can sit there and have her just start with, "I remember when," and then it goes away. It's like, it's not even focused on her. It's just, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out ways that potentially could work if she actually decided to
Basically,
come back.
she's the crypt keeper.
Yeah, I guess.
Or modern, if you're watching it, NCIS Origins. It's Gibbs telling his story from his rookie year.
Huh.
It's not an awful way to go, but it would take some interesting writing to have
Agreed.
Michael be a part of that.
I have a feeling Sean's going to be watching this show, like looking at every extra, like, no, that might have been her. Rewind it. There she is.
I don't know. Like, at some point you got to move past it. We just had 3 movies with her, and whether you like the movies or not, they're the biggest financial successes of the entire franchise, right? So in my opinion, you have to go a different direction now. It's time to move in a different direction. When you think about it, the last several Halloween projects have been all Laurie Strode based. If not Jamie Lee Curtis, at least Laurie Strode. H2O and Resurrection were about her return. And then we went to Zombies movies, which was about Scout Taylor Compton's Laurie Strode. And then we did the David Gordon Green movies, which was more Laurie Strode. Enough with the fucking Laurie Strode.
We need
on.
more Loomis. More Loomis.
Correct.
That's what we need.
I was going to say, that's the one thing, is that, like, if they could just recast Loomis, I don't know why they don't think they can do it or what the reason is for it. Because, like I've said many times before, like, Halloween for me is the Loomis show. Like, he's the good guy. Like, I thought, I guess I like 4, 5, and 6 more than some people do, so that kind of puts me on that direction. But yeah, like, don't have Laurie and then just get a new Loomis. You don't have to just find anyone that looks like him. Doesn't even have to look like him. It's like the look is not the character. It's not important. Like, find someone good to act in the part. Recast Loomis. I think you're on mute if you think you're talking there, Sean.
Yeah, I thought I was talking there. Jerry says, "No, God, no." There's no more story to tell with her as a main character. Her ego and asking price is too big to be cast as any less than a lead. It will turn the franchise to nothing but a vanity show. Yeah, I'm not gonna go as far as to say like there's no way it wouldn't be successful. It's just like you're playing with fire at this point. You got to show that your franchise is more than just Laurie Strode. And while Johnny's clearly signing up for another chapter of Laurie Strode, I will gladly pass on it. Let us know though what all of you think about the possibility of Jamie Lee Curtis. Even even if it's her as a different character in a different timeline, like an elderly character, obviously. I don't want that. Like, woman's got too much creative control, too much Hulk Hogan for me. Um, there are so this one's a little surprising. Um, there was a Alien movie that just came out. Did quite well. I think it's Romulus.
Yep.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard really good things about it. There's not one, but two Predator movies coming out next year, and one of them has been done in, I guess, secret, basically. Um, and a lot of people think that that's going to be Alien versus Predator again. Is there any like taste whatsoever anymore in terms of putting one horror character up against another? Like, is there a market for that, or is that long dead?
I think there's a market for it. I think Alien versus Predator makes the most sense from a content writing perspective because they are so similar to one another yet so different in the way that they act. That makes it good for them to be paired well with each other, and both franchises have done a lot to sort of reinvigorate themselves in the last decade than any of the other horror franchises have done. With Predator going back through its through the origin stories and the early stuff that they've done, like the movie last year on Disney Plus and Stars, Hulu in the States, I think.
I can't remember, but it did quite well.
And then they have another one coming out. I believe it's this month.
I do believe they have a direct sequel to Prey coming out. But yeah, it was Hulu for last year, and you're right. It has done a lot. Both franchises have done a lot to kind of bring themselves back to the forefront and to put out some pretty quality stuff. The fact that both of them are technically, even in their comic books, they're in the same universe, so it makes sense to have more stories pitting them against each other, considering the movies that we've seen only scratches the surface of them hunting each other, but also just the idea of the different time eras the Predators have been a part of and the different planets they've gone to face the xenomorphs themselves, whatever version it is. So I can see it being something really neat and something different, because I don't think Earth needs to be involved this time. We've seen, because I mean, with Predators, we saw them go to like an actual hunting planet, obviously dropping humans in on this, but it's just the idea you can do something like that with the aliens as well. So it's the xenomorphs. So it's not like there's not enough stories to tell between the two races. I think you could really even delve back into when they first started hunting the xenomorphs. I think that'd be really cool as well. So there's plenty there. It's just how it's executed, and if you don't get that oversaturation to the point where it just gets to be boring. And right now, both franchises seem to be kind of hitting on all cylinders.
It's two franchises that you can tie together very easily. Historically, presently, they did a great job with the comics, like you said, Randy, which is something not a lot of people ever actually read. They also had a really good game series on the PC, in the 2000s. I'd like to see it, and I think the way you do about it is, you're right. Earth isn't the battleground for this. I don't think it should be. I also don't think this is the correct time period for this. I think I think the best thing they can do is to tie the franchises together and create the shared universe properly. And the answer to that is simply, you need to tie the Predators into the Engineers in some form or fashion. The Engineers, the Predators, the Engineers sort of work together. The Predators hunt the failed experiments, the things that aren't supposed to exist according to the Engineers. They're the bounty hunters of space and time. I think would be a great way to expand on the Predator mythos, which is something that hasn't really been done, and explain the Xenomorphs a little more in their continued existence and consistent hunting by the Predators.
Kieran, any thoughts on this?
I wasn't here for the topic, but you're saying, sorry.
There's potentially
Alien.
another Alien vs Predator film that's going to come out.
Well, I haven't liked any of the Alien versus Predator movies that much. I do like Alien movies and Predator movies, and like quite a bit. Like I like Alien 3 that people don't like. I like Predator 2 that some people don't like. Like I in general like these movies, but did not like either of the Aliens versus Predators movies. I felt like the reasons to put them together were always kind of like, oh yeah, they're just kind of in the same place at the same time. Like it there was not a reason for them to, get into it. I mean, I guess they made, in the first one they made kind of a okay reason or whatever, but I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I don't really care to see. Like, I want to see both of them. I don't really care to see them together, based on what we've gotten so far. Like, it's cool that they exist in the same universe. The first time, you see Predator 2 and you see that there's an alien skull in the ship, you're like, oh my gosh, like you kind of suspected they're in the same universe, but any little confirmation in comic books and things like that was always super exciting. And then we got some big budget dumb movies that really didn't play to the strength of either franchise, in my opinion. So
First one was okay. The second one was dog shit.
Yeah, the first one was okay. I remember seeing it in theater and being like, oh, that was worth eating popcorn to and whatever. And yeah, like the second one, I was not really impressed at all. I like to see. I still haven't seen the new Alien movie, but I like to see that it kind of returned to its kind of horror roots and stay away from action. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't really. I will watch it, but I don't. I would rather that they say separate.
I just don't know if we've already passed the time where putting one big horror movie character against another big one is interesting anymore, right? Like, not saying you can't do it. I just don't know if you can do it on a big scale and expect it to be successful. But that'll bring us to our last topic for this segment, and it's one that I did not think we would be talking about, and we will be putting this video up over on the Legacy of Westeros to be consumed there as well. So there is a Game of Thrones movie in active development. And this comes from James Hibbard, the Hollywood Reporter insider that literally gets all the Game of Thrones stuff first. No one beats this guy to a Game of Thrones story. Not many details were given other than it could be multiple films that are in production, but they're not sure on that. And then within the last couple of days, a couple of notable scoopers have come forward. So take this as a rumor, but that there was two stories they were actively developing for movies. One being a sequel to Game of Thrones, but done in movie format, which, say what you will, that'll get people to go and see it in a movie theater. Like, hey, here's your short little small, 2 or 3 movie sequel story to Game of Thrones. Um, and then the other one, and it could probably be done for fairly cheap with a quick turnaround. Robert's Rebellion. And I kind of thought, there's probably not enough there with Robert's Rebellion for a series, in terms of what's actually there for literature. But you could probably get a movie or two out of that. And so whatever they're doing, I'm obviously on board. I just find it weird that now they're finally taking the jump into the cinema pool, the movie pool, if you will, instead of staying with the TV series. Kieran, do you have a preference on what you would prefer to see on the big screen? And do you want to see Game of Thrones on the big screen at all?
I'm quite a bit interested. I mean, I think I'm a big fan of the Lord of the Rings movies, so that you can tell a long story in a trilogy. Obviously, those movies were pretty long, but if you just go with the theater run ones, they're, except for Return of the King, they're not beyond the the norm that maybe a Marvel movie can go, or an Avengers movie or whatever. So I think they can do it. I think it can work. On what I prefer, I don't even know, because it seems like having 8 seasons long, lots of storytelling for Game of Thrones, a nice little aftermath sort of movie or two might work pretty well. I don't know what story would go there, but you could have like almost like like a Game of Thrones aftermath, where you kind of show. I wouldn't want them to show where everybody went, because it has to be a cohesive movie on its own. It can't just be we're showing a couple extra episodes on screen. So you have to develop an interesting story with maybe a few of the characters tie up for some reason. As for Robert's Rebellion, that probably would be pretty awesome. But I'm more worried about that project and whether it's told right or not. Whereas there's a lot of things you could do with after Game of Thrones. If I'm not correct, there's not a ton known about where they're going. And I mean, if they're going with the television storyline, they went far away from the books by that time anyway, so they could really do anything. So I like the idea of it being open-ended for that, and I would like to see Robert's Rebellion, be interested in both, but that's where I would be kind of like, oh, they did this character wrong, or I don't know if they can recast this character because they're too old, or I would be more skeptical about how they could pull Robert's Rebellion off. Whereas, just trying to find out whatever happens after Game of Thrones, if they can put something neat in there, I would. I'd be a lot more open to what could happen and whether I would like it or not. But I'd be interested in both. I'd love to go to a theaters to see that, and I'll commit if that happens. We'll go together, no matter what cinema in between the 2 hours between us. We'll figure it out.
It'll be somewhere closer to you, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm assuming the ones near me are a little nicer.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Johnny, what about you, man? What are you thinking about this? It basically as strong as a confirmation as you're ever going to get that there's one in active development, possibly more than one. Your thoughts on the possible story options, and if you think Game of Thrones can work on the big screen?
I mean, I'm more and more torn on Game of Thrones every day. I don't know. Ever since that final season of the main 9 series, my interest has just been going down. The first season, House of Dragon, did a good job to bring me back, but the second season couldn't hold me. I still haven't finished it. It just, I don't know, somewhere along the way it stopped doing it for me. And I don't know. I mean, I still keep up with it. I still read the stuff. But I don't know. Can it work on the big screen? Sure. Is it going to be a story I want to see? Depending on the story. For me, if you're going to tell a story on the big screen, I think it has to be Robert's Rebellion, because it's the only part of the story fleshed out enough already that I don't think they can screw it up and make me hate it. You know, as long as they tell the events as they've portrayed them through the Game of Thrones series, then I don't have an issue with it. I mean, yes, you're going to have to add things to it, and there's the potential for them to sort of throw giant curveballs in that all they want and make me be like, this is trash, I hate it, this is garbage, what are you doing? But I think Robert's Rebellion is the safest for them to do it, and it might actually do something to help me as, you know, as a fan, to tell that story that I'm already interested in, that I care about, that has characters I care about in it, and do that for me. Whereas if they go sequel, I'm not interested at all in the state of Westeros post the end of the television series. I'm not. I have zero interest in that. I would not go to a theater to see it. I just don't care. I don't. There's so much bad that happened in the back half of that final season that I genuinely do not care. I don't care about the sequel series they were talking about. I don't care about the sequel movie if that's where they're going. I'll wash my hands and say I'm not interested. This is not for me. I don't like this. I don't want this. This is not the Westeros I care about. And it just, you know, I mean, if it's Robert's Rebellion, I'll care. If it's something else, sort of in between, if there's a fleshed out story, I might care, depending on what it is and what it looks like, and trailers and casting and performance and all those things. But if it's anything post-series that is about the characters from the series, now if they want to come back with like a, you know, an Essos or something else post Game of Thrones, I might care. Maybe if it's an Arya movie, I might care, because at least her story sort of ended in a way that I was fine with, in a sense, for just, you know, going off exploring and trying to find out what's on the other side of the, you know, everything. I might be interested in that, but anything else in a post Game of Thrones timeline, not interested. No, thank you. About Westeros, anyway.
Damn, Johnny throwing the hammer down. Randy, how are you?
I think the key here is story, right? We can get a solid story, like, yes, Robert's Rebellion works. If you want to go post TV series, it's really going to depend on the story. I mean, we already know it's going to look beautiful. We know the music's going to be on point. We know that they're not going to skimp on any of the production value stuff. We already know that this is pretty much a lock because it's Game of Thrones, and that's just how they roll. But as far as the story goes, where they want to go with it, if you're talking about potential 2 or 3 movies after the TV series, then we need to figure out, and they need to figure out exactly where they want to go with it, who they want to focus on, and if it's a good enough story that's going to entice people to go to theaters to see it. Like you and Johnny have said, it's like, and Kieran, Robert's Rebellion makes the most sense because it's been mentioned, it's been hinted at, people have made comments about it, but we didn't get to really truly see it. And if you're going to do something like that, maybe they just don't have enough for a TV series. So let's throw a couple movies out there based on that, where you kind of like, you need a 2-parter, similar like with what Harry Potter did with the Deathly Hallows. You can tell one complete story with those 2 movies, and we could do that with Robert's Rebellion. We could take that and have a good solid beginning, a good stopping point, and then everything just takes off from there to an amazing finale. That can work. And if that's what they do, beautiful. I can see people easily wanting to go to the theaters for that sort of thing.
I bet people would want to go to theaters just hearing Sean Bean say anything if he was in it. Like, imagine him talking at the end of the trailer. I think people would be like, "Oh, we're gonna go see that
voice. I know that voice. I need to go see this."
I think that would lock it down, but I don't know whether they'd try to cast a younger one or they do all their crazy Hollywood magic to make someone look young.
It's never stopped them before.
I think it'd be interesting in terms of if it was a sequel. If the reason the Snow Show was, thrown aside was to do a movie, something more condensed with Jon Snow. I mean, even if you're just going to follow that character beyond the wall, I think I would be pretty on board with that. For me personally, I'd prefer the series, but um, at the end of the day, I got to go with Johnny. Like Robert's Rebellion, there's so much good material there. Yeah, everybody would need to be recast, but it's all characters that people know. You got Robert and Ned and Jamie and to a lesser extent Cersei and potentially Tyrion could be involved on a smaller scale. But like Stannis even and oh my god, help me out. Who's Stannis is the Onion Knight there. Fuck, what's his name?
Really?
No, not Renly, that's his brother.
Don't. He's really upset about this. Don't give it to him.
I'm really upset about this, yes.
Starts with a D.
Does it? Davos, that's it, yes. Fuck. Oh,
I knew that was
God.
tearing you up inside, so I wanted to watch this for him.
It was but like all those characters are involved in it. Even dude with the flaming sword and now I can't even. I'm just losing names here. The Game of Thrones cast.
Have you even watched this series?
The Game of Thrones cast, all the older characters, anyways, have a part to play for the most part in Robert's Rebellion. So seeing Tywin, someone else take on a younger Tywin would be cool as well. So I would love Robert's Rebellion. I know some fans would be annoyed with no dragons and we finally get Game of Thrones on the big screen, but for me, I look at the turnaround time you can do if you leave dragons out, and like your turnaround time becomes much quicker if you're gonna, film back-to-back movies or back-to-back-to-back movies.
I feel like the Robert's Rebellion thing works in the sense of the character development too. We get to actually see how some of these characters developed into their season 1 and forward Game of Thrones counterparts. I think that's, to me, is kind of neat because we can see why Robert is the way he is. We can see why Ned feels the way he does. They've hinted at it, they've talked about it, but we've never seen it. So, I mean, that's another selling point on it. It's just, I think that would be a good way to approach it, as well as getting a chance to truly get ourselves immersed into the characters as a whole, more so than we did when we watched, at least season 1 of Game of Thrones, where they're fully developed already. They are who they are. I've always liked that about prequel series, is kind of finding out how characters tick and what made them who they are. And this is a really good opportunity for that.
Anyone else have any final thoughts on a potential Game of Thrones movie?
I would be down, like you said, to just see a little adventure of Jon Snow, and if that turned out to be, I mean, it has to be written well, it has to whatever, but I certainly think that the women would go and see that, so I think it might be a good way to go. But yeah, I if that's written well, or there's a reason, he's the character that's kind of like, well, him and Arya are the characters who are like, okay, they're going to do something now, like they're not just sitting at home now, so I think that would be the easiest things to do.
This is exactly what George R. R. Martin needs, is another reason to delay writing his book. All right, we'll keep going here and move on to Fandom Buzz. Now, I don't think Kieran has gotten a Oh, dogs are going crazy. All right. Well, um, while we're waiting for Kieran to get back, I guess I'll insert my thoughts here on this, which was not scheduled for tonight's show. But I believe it was Johnny's advice, anyways, maybe both of you guys, and just went ahead and watched the cutscene movie for Star Wars Outlaws. I won't spoil anything, so, so you guys are safe there. But I will say this. I think when you're spending 3+ figures on a game, you need a story that gives you more to bite. Um, and I was left very unsatisfied, and actually very happy that by you guys being honest with me with when I asked you that question a while back, I didn't like. I don't know. I felt redeemed in a way. Like, okay, I made the right call here by not blowing my brains out. At $120 or whatever it is, Canadian to get that thing. Now, that's not to say it's a bad game or anything. It's not to say that I'm never going to get it, because sales happen, and longer a game's out, the cheaper it eventually goes. But the story, just not enough there for me when doing a game of that sort. And
I
I
mean,
don't think. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say they put a lot of focus on just more of the gameplay and the things you can do, more so than the story, because it was snippets. It wasn't like it hasn't been like full on character driven moments, so to speak. It's just been a lot of fetch quests and upgrading and leveling up and all that stuff. And where that's cool, and I do enjoy that part. Yeah, you're right. The story didn't fully hook me. I liked it for what it is so far, but I haven't even finished it yet. But it's just I just lost steam because it was just a lot of repetitive stuff that, even though I do enjoy this type of game, I can only go so long before I have to set it down and then revisit it after I've taken time off. And unfortunately that's what this type of game is. And it's a shame. I felt like there was real potential to be something special that we haven't had in a long time. I mean, even with the Jedi series, they're great and the stories are good, but it gets repetitive. And yeah, I always have to put those types of games down and come back because I just get bored of doing the same stuff over and over again. Plus, I'm a bit of a trophy whore, so I'm always going to go out of my way to try to do all the fetch quests and unlock everything. And so it wears on you after a while.
Any thoughts, Johnny?
No, I mean, Randy hit it pretty much on the nose with everything.
All right, so let's dive into this fandom buzz for this week. And if Kieran rejoins us here soon, then I'll let him know the rules. I think I still have a photo of them. Maybe I don't on this phone. Oh, yeah. All right. So here's what I have. I can actually access my notes this week, so I don't have to annoy Johnny. Fandom buzz. So there's a rumor out there that one of the announcements coming up regarding the Rey movie, the new Jedi Order movie, which Daisy really reiterated today, there's more coming. It's exciting. It's exciting stuff. It's like, yeah, I'll, like we've been saying, I don't even know if cautiously optimistic's the word. I'll obviously read it with interest and discuss it on here, but until our asses is, you know, sitting on a nice sofa somewhere watching a trailer to something, it's hard to believe it's ever coming. But one of the rumors is they've balked at their earlier idea, and that first Rey movie might in fact be officially episode 10. Now, I wish I could say it's coming from somewhere that's super reputable or even not reputable at all, but it's coming from a couple of places that are like 50-50. So, what are your thoughts on this? The idea that the new Jedi Order movie will actually be episode 10. FE1, FE2, FE3, FE4, FE5. Randy, you go, then Johnny.
Oh man, I don't know if I like that. I mean, is there a chance it could be? Sure, but I think we need to start something different with Ray. It doesn't need to be an episode 10. I'm gonna go because it's so early, because there's no real concrete anything. I'm gonna go with an FE2 that it's not likely. Just because, again, it's not like the sites that are reporting this are known for hitting it, but so often. But the idea of an episode 10 doesn't sit well with me, just because I feel like this Ray's movie needs to be something new. It needs to be something different, and it needs to be away from the Skywalker saga. Let's completely and totally just say 1 through 9 Skywalker saga, and put it to the left, and we'll start something new. Call like the new Jedi Order saga or something. Just start fresh. Give us something that, yes, there will be callbacks, but we don't need episode 10. This can be the episode 1 of the new Jedi Order or something like that.
So FE1, FE2, FE3, FE4, FE5?
FE2. Like I said, I don't think it's very likely that it's going to be episode 10, but again, I guess anything's possible.
Johnny?
If you want. I don't think there's any chance of that. I think they're going to do their best to distinguish the episodic numbers to be the Skywalker saga. And despite Rey assuming the last name, that doesn't make the story to come a part of the Skywalker saga. So I just don't I don't think it's smart to do that. I think they need to distinguish themselves differently from the sequel trilogy, which you're not going to do if you just call this episode 10. It's just going to remind us of the 7, 8, and 9. You don't want that. You want to distinguish yourself from it, be different from it, and you can't attach an episode number unless you're embracing those films, and that's the worst idea they could have, if I'm being honest, from my perspective anyway.
I hate myself for even saying this, but I gotta give it an FE3. I think it's quite possible it goes either way at this point, just because of all the constant changes and things, and hopefully they've learned from past mistakes. But in my opinion, if you want to start new, then I think you need to go not just outside those first 9 movies, but like outside all of those characters altogether, right? Like, I think the second you, like, even just Ray, right? Let's say no one else makes it into the movie that's actually a person, other than Daisy Ridley as Ray. That's still a Palpatine that was trained by a couple of Skywalkers, right? Like, you don't get rid of that stuff unless you completely move away from it, which, I mean, they had a chance to do that with the Acolyte, but they didn't even do it with it. So, there seems to be a refusal to do that. I mean, I think they're gonna have no choice with one of our Star Wars topics here later. But yeah, I'm FE3 on that, unfortunately, gentlemen. I wish I wasn't. We'll move on to AEW because I have that Punk one in the wrong category. So I was reading about the possibility of John Moxley. Sorry, not John Moxley. Pardon me. He's involved in this. Adam Copeland will be one of the big players against Moxley and company with that storyline they got going on right now. where do we put that on the scale of FE1 to FE5? Johnny, you first.
I think for me that's an FE3. Only because of the length of time it might take him to come back from the injury. If he comes back early enough, yeah, I can certainly see him in that sort of, veteran leadership role, helping to rally the troops position. That'd be perfectly fine with me, and it would make sense for him to do that. Um, that being said, I think a bulk of this storyline will be completed before he comes back. So unless they bring him out while injured as part of backstage promos and what have you, as sort of the voice, a voice for AEW, it could go either way. If he's healthy, he'll be a part of it. If he's not, he won't.
Randy?
So I will say this is probably an FE4 for me, just because it makes sense. I think their goal is to try to stretch this out as long as possible. If they, it's like John Moxley's group, basically starting with the low ranks and then just working their way through, taking out people left and right. Because obviously, the Bucks are off TV now; they're resting from injuries and whatnot. Obviously, the goal here is for the Bucks to come back and help AEW reclaim itself from Moxley. That, at least that is the going rumor right now, but that's far off. And I think that their idea is to try to get as many people involved as possible, having Moxley and Claudio and all them just taking guys out left and right as time goes on while they work through the ranks and getting to Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin, and eventually once he's healthy, Copeland. Honestly, that's best case scenario the way I look at it, but I also see it as a real possibility overall, just because that group needs someone like Adam Copeland, who's got the experience, who has that charisma as a leader. That'd be a real huge boost for that whole entire storyline if he can get healthy in time to kind of help put something on that. But yeah, that's why that's an FE4 for me.
Yeah, I'm going FE4 too, because I think that it'll last long enough for him to get involved. I'm not a fan of the Bucks idea simply because of where they've been at the last several months. There's been no sign whatsoever about a change in feelings or characters, and I'd also hate to see where that would leave someone like Jack Perry, and I don't think anyone's clamoring for face Jack Perry at the moment. He's probably doing the best stuff he's ever done, in my opinion. I don't know, but I feel like Adam Copeland's basically a lock at this point to do something with them. We talked about this one earlier, so pretty simple one to introduce. Jamie Lee Curtis, is she returning to Halloween? Johnny?
I think I'm gonna stay right where I was at on the last one. FE3, it could go either way.
That hurts. It hurts. Randy?
As much as I don't want it, as much as we all really don't want it, I do feel like this is probably an FE3. I think this is one of those things that can go either way. As much as we all want it to be an FE1, she's put her hands in stuff too many times already that if she really wants to badly enough, I can see her trying to interject herself into this. So yeah, at this point, it's an FE3, can go either way.
Even if it's just in a behind the scenes role, if they do bring her on as an executive producer, like I was saying before, she won't do it in a way where she's not involved and is just like a namesake to be attached. That's just not her style. She's not going to put her name on it unless she can be involved. And that scares me. And it scares me that we got no official announcement on things that were progressing throughout the year this year. And knowing they didn't put it out in October, you know damn well they're not rushing to now put the announcement out in November. Not that they wouldn't, but it certainly wouldn't be the goal. But yeah. Anyways, let's keep moving on. I'm not sure if Kieran will be back or not. Sounds unlikely. Um, Robert's Rebellion. Is Robert's Rebellion going to happen as the Game of Thrones movie?
Well, I'm sorry. I guess. Again, I think it's an FE4. I think it's more likely than not that that's the story because there's so much of it for them to pull from. Like I said, characters we're already interested in.
I mean, I'll I'll go FE4 as well, just because it feels like, to me, it's the best option for the movie. Just because, again, it wouldn't be much of a TV series. It'd be more of a mini series. Could be like 3 or 4 episodes, 3 or 4 long episodes, and that's about it. Might as well just turn it into a movie, put it in theaters, and give people something a reason to go to the movies again. So FE4 for me.
Game of Thrones sequel as a movie, and I'd be FE3 by the way on that last one. I'm FE3 on this one too. I know it's a cop out, but I'm going FE3 on a Game of Thrones sequel being the movie.
Well, we all know how much Johnny wants to see a Game of Thrones sequel movie. I'm gonna go. This one I'll do FE3 just because, who knows? Maybe they have a story in mind that would work as a film, as a sequel to the TV series. But maybe they don't. Like I said, it can go either way. And yeah, that's why it's an FE3. It really just depends on where they want to go story wise. If they focus on specific characters, it could work. But I'm not really too confident. But again, I'm not the one pulling the strings here, so I think it's just an FE3. It's going to go either way.
What was I don't give a damn about this? FE0? No, I mean, I think it's FE2. Just because it's either Robert's Rebellion or this sequel. So I think Rebellion is slightly more likely. So this one will, drop down to the 2.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for Fandom Buzz this week. We're going to move on to Fact or Fiction, which we've done before. I believe we were doing this one a lot in like the Rebel fandom days, pre-Fandom Empire, Fandom Cantina, where we do some fun little fact or fiction questions, and you can elaborate more on it or just leave it as one word. But I'm going to start off with a fun one that I love teasing people over. Fact or fiction? Orange juice is actually yellow. Who's taking it?
I'm gonna say fiction. It's always looked orange to me.
What?
Orange juice has always looked orange to me. I don't know why you would think it would look yellow. I mean, it's not like it's lemonade.
I wish I had prepped my photo, but I did not. Johnny?
Fiction. It's more of a light umber.
So think about it this way. Picture it. You have a picture, right? Just flat black background. And in the middle of the picture is a glass of orange juice poured into a clear see-through glass. And to the left of it, you have, say, a pumpkin or an unpeeled orange or whatever. maybe both, a pumpkin and an unpeeled orange. And then to the right of it, you have a school bus. Does your orange juice that's liquid look more like the color of the school bus or more like the color of a pumpkin?
I mean, it's definitely right in between, but for me, like my school buses are like super yellow, so it's like a damn bright lemon. Um, so it's definitely, but that's why I said they're in between. It's still orange. I mean, it's still orange to me anyway, but maybe that's just how I've always seen it, and it's kind of hard to look at it as any other color other than orange.
It's got crotch chop by the wife. So,
Like that's a bad thing.
like, look, it's yellow, people. It's fucking yellow. The color yellow deserves its justice. I'm sick of walking into a grocery store and it's saying orange juice, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, it's not fucking orange. It's yellow.
It's not a description. I don't understand your confusion on this subject. Orange juice is not a description of the color of the juice. It is a description of what it is juiced from. It is juice from an orange, therefore orange juice. Now, as for its color on your hypothetical coloring page image, it's both orange and yellow because it's not as orange as like the skin of an orange. It's more closer to like the rind of an orange, which isn't bright orange. It's a much lighter color. So you mix the orange with the yellow and you get orange juice. You're muted again.
Sorry, I was being interrupted again.
We don't call apple juice green juice. It's
Who
not
hurt-
red. Why
You
is
know
it
what?
apple juice?
You know what? Who hurt you?
Apparently
Who hurt
you. Because like that's a much more definitive argument. Why is apple juice green when it comes from a red orange, a red
You're
apple?
probably one of those people that liked green and purple ketchup, aren't you?
I did like green and purple ketchup.
Oh,
Thank you.
for the love of God, no!
It was
Ketchup is
fun.
red.
It still tasted like ketchup. I don't look at it while I eat it.
What?
Orange.
Get out of here.
On camera,
Yeah.
that looked more red. I don't know. That didn't help.
It didn't look very orange to me either. So, I think she's stoned. But, yeah. All right. We'll have some fun with this one. Kieran's still in the chat with us here. Fact or fiction? CM Punk will be WWE champion again.
Again? Like at some point in the next 100,000 years?
Sure. Yeah. I was
Well, I
thinking
mean, I don't know
maybe
if you're
the
putting a
next 2
time
or
frame. Are you
3,
saying the
but-
next year? No. If you're limiting it to forever, probably.
I'm going to say fact, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
I'm gonna go fiction. I think he's in that later Shawn Michaels part of the career where he's just happy
Later,
to
Shawn
be
Michaels
there.
still won the belt.
No, but like after that, he didn't. Like he won it at what Elimination Chamber, lost at the next pay per view, and then never had it again, despite some close calls.
I can see Punk going that way. At least getting it one more time and then putting someone younger, more deserving over, dropping it to them. I can see him doing that.
Kieran just wants to see Braun Breaker friggin' spear Punk 12 times in a row. So Punk never walks again. Braun Breaker wins it. I can see him wanting that. Yeah. But yeah, I have fiction on that one. Fact or fiction? Dragon Ball Super will continue one day on TV.
That is fact, just because they have enough right now that they can continue it. Obviously, they're going to focus on Daima, and that's fine. I'm kind of excited. Less than a week when we finally get the dub, at least the first few episodes. But I feel like there's just enough in the manga right now that they could easily have a sequel series to Dragon Ball Super. So I think it's gonna be fact.
Fact or fiction, we will one day have a Sons of Anarchy direct sequel series, not a spin-off of another club, but a continuation of Sam Crow.
Fiction.
I'm fact. I'm very hard fact.
See, this is where this gets tricky because I've never watched the series. So
What?
I'm so much of a gamer. I would say 90% of the time I'm playing video games or I'm watching wrestling or something else. But beyond that, I've never seen it. I know it's a travesty, but if the story was left off like a certain way, like on a cliffhanger or like just open ended, then yeah, fact. It's only a matter of time because they're going to be like, we have a story. Who wants to get back involved? But until I actually sit down and watch it, that's the best I can give you.
All right, well, that's going to do it for fact or fiction this week. Let's move on to our Star Wars portion of the show. All right, gents, Skeleton Crew has a trailer. Hopefully, you read the notes and took 2 minutes to watch the trailer. How are we feeling after that Skeleton Crew trailer, Randy?
I think that for me, I'm still kind of, tempering my expectations. Here's the thing: as good as things look, as fun as it looks, and definitely something seems like aimed at kids, right? I still want to, after the disappointment of what they did with the Acolyte, I don't want to get so hyped to the point like I was before that it's just a big letdown. Um, am I excited? Am I excited about the premise? Yes. And does the trailer do anything more for me? Not really. It does. The trailer's done enough between the two trailers we've gotten. It's done enough that I'm just like, I'm going to watch it and I will wait and kind of just see how it goes rather than like with the Acolyte where we were so hyped for the show because everything looked amazing and the premise sounded awesome and we got some good episodes to start and then it just fell off and then it tried to recoup it again. A Star Wars TV series cannot suffer another tragedy like that. This needs to just kind of it doesn't even have to be something like on the level of Ahsoka. It just needs to be consistent. And that's kind of why I'm just kind of like, okay, cool. This is neat. Let's see what the show does first before I just get all like, oh man, this trailer just got me going.
Gianni?
I think this trailer was pretty much the same as the last one. Like, it didn't really do anything for me new, except introduce me to a new version of Major Tom that I'd never heard before that I quite enjoyed. That's really all this trailer did for me personally. Like, I'd never heard that particular version of the song, so I spent most of it trying to figure out what it was because it was niggling the back of my head brain. Like, this song, you know it. What is this song? And that overshadowed the entire trailer because it didn't really bring anything new to the table, So that's what I spent my time trying to figure out. Was this a version of the song recorded exclusively for Star Wars? And I'm not an audiophile, so I don't recognize the languages because it was sort of being played in the background. So I'm like, did they re-record Major Tom and Orabesh? Because I'd love that. But I didn't. I found out it's in German. It's an actual song that was released in the early 2000s. But, either way, great song. I loved it. But yeah, the trailer didn't bring anything new for me. So my hype level is at the same. As we've said on this show before, this the premise of this series is what I've bought into. It's Star Wars Goonies. I love Goonies. What can go wrong here? Now, obviously, that the answer to that is a lot, but on premise and premise alone, I'm here for this. You got Jude Law, who I think is a great actor. Yeah, so you're bringing more positive to the tables than negative. So as long as you deliver on those promises, provide me a good, spelunking story, give me a character that I love, like Sloth in Goonies, give me the memorable moments like the truffle shuffle, give me those sort of things, and I'm here for this. I'll be happy. I will be satisfied. Those are the things that I love most about the Goonies, and if you can provide anything even remotely close to that, I will be satisfied with the series, and I will be happy.
So I'm not. I want to watch how I phrase this here. Um, the music didn't sound bad, but I'm one of those sticklers who really believes Star Wars should be all orchestra stuff. I just believe that's the DNA of Star Wars. It's not as jarring as that terrible acolyte after credit thing. But it did take me out of it a little bit. That being said, it looks fine, I'm not, over the moon waiting with, tons of anticipation to see this thing, but obviously we'll be reviewing the episodes here at the channel, and I hope it's fun. I hope it's good. It should have a light amount of pressure on it, to be honest. Um, and we'll see what happens. I'm cautiously optimistic, but like my hype meter is just not very high because it's not something I asked for. But I went into Andor season 1 the same way. I didn't want Andor. I didn't think we needed an Andor show. And then I seen what the show was actually about and was like, "Oh, I stand corrected on this one. I was wrong." So I'm hoping to feel that way again.
I mean, I agree with you 100% in that respect. We can hope that we get a quote unquote, kind of return to Andor in that respect of a series, just kind of catching us off guard and being better than what we were giving it credit for. But I think we can all agree that Acolyte really kind of hit us in the wrong spot in terms of just giving us all these promises and then just kind of cutting our legs out from underneath us. I want this show to be decent. I really do. Because I feel like there is room for more Star Wars television series, but they can't all be Andor as much as we'd want them to be. And we need to be able to hit on something other than Andor and Ahsoka that is going to help propel new stories instead of trying to retread on stuff that we already know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Just be entertaining. Give us a non-disastrous thing, a fairly drama-free thing for a little while. That would be enjoyable to experience for the first time in a while. But we'll see what happens on that front. The other piece of news that's out there is apparently James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi is going to go into production and possibly begin filming by the end of next year. So this time next year, Dawn of the Jedi may be filming. This is one of those things I was very skeptical about. I will remain skeptical about it until we find out that they're actually filming. I'm not an Indy 5 fan. I'm so much not a fan of that movie. I think Indy 4 is miles better. Um, and that hurts because I loved Logan from Mangold. And I heard Ford versus Ferrari is great. But he really missed with Indy 5 for me. So I'm kind of a mixed bag in terms of where things could go with him. But how do you guys feel in general about the premise of a Dawn of the Jedi movie about the first batch of Jedi Knights?
don't I'm sort of indifferent on it at this point. Um, which is a sad statement that I'm indifferent on it mostly because I just don't trust the current direction of Star Wars to tell a story that I want to tell about the dawn of the Jedi, as it were. Um, I don't know. I'd like to say that I hope to be pleasantly surprised by this, but you know, even in the George Lucas era and the Legends era, the Dawn of the Jedi and the early Jedi Order was always more almost faith based, and that is a direction doomed for failure in 2024. So I don't know. It could be interesting. It could also be Armageddon, as it were. So I don't know. I mean, it'll just come down to what the story is, how it's presented, how they are, how the early Jedi are presented to the audience, and how they go about that telling that story. And that's the one that gives me the most pause of all of the projects currently in production.
Yeah, I'm very. It's again, like I was saying, it's a mixed bag for me with that project. Again, some of Mangold stuff I love, and then Indy 5 happened, and it was like, oh, not even Mangold could put out a decent movie there. Um, and it's like, I just look at the options, and there's just so much that can go wrong with a Dawn of the Jedi movie. And I'm not saying they should play it safe either, because I think maybe the way out of this mess is by taking a big leap in one direction. But I like Johnny's point of, I don't know if the people currently in charge are the ones we want doing that story. And when you think about it, a Dawn of the Jedi movie should be enriched with lore and, have all sorts of inside baseball stuff with it. And I'm not sure James Mangold's the guy to deliver that project in terms of writing and directing it, right? Like, directing it, maybe. Writing it, and I'm not saying Filoni's not peeking his head in, because I'm sure he is. But they were always worried about going back a few thousand years to the Knights of the Old Republic era and making it look different and feel different. And now you're going to go back way further than that. I don't know. Part of me is bitter because I feel like I don't want to call it an easy home run, because at this point in time, there's no more easy home runs for Star Wars. But one of the closest things you have to it, with the right creative involved, is Knights of the Old Republic. Like, people don't just love Knights of the Old Republic, the game, because, oh, it was a fun game to play. They love it because the story is one of the best Star Wars stories ever told. And such a small amount of the audience knows it. Sorry, had to go on there.
No, I mean, I totally understand where both of you are coming from. I feel like that this has potential, depending, but again, you're talking about starting production end of next year. We all know what could happen by the end of next year. We've already seen just the colossal, CF that the Ray movie's been. And to try to say that, everything's going to work out just fine for Mangold's movie, I don't know. It depends on who interferes. If they just let him do his thing, how much input Filoni's going to have, especially like you said, lore and callbacks and Easter eggs and things that are going to kind of make you have that aha moment where it's like, so this is where this came from. You just don't know. And I'm just like Sean, I understand your frustration as well. It's like, if they're going back that far, yes, why not give us a screen adaptation to Knights of the Old Republic? Because at least it's characters people know, love, and want to see in live action. So I get that part as well. Ultimately, what we're looking at here is, I don't know what we're looking at, because we just have an idea of what the movie's about, and that's it. There, we don't know anything beyond that, other than that and a director. So if it really truly is going to start with production by the end of next year, clearly they are ready to get the cast set and all that fun stuff. But I need to know more of a story. I need to have a better idea of what it is before I can just be like, get excited for this. But I'm excited for it just because of the potential of what it can do, of the story they could tell if done right. So it's like I'm on the fence of wanting it versus not wanting it, on the fence of just being hyped for it versus I don't want to get my heart broken again, like that sort of thing. Ultimately, obviously, we'll know in time. Hopefully, things trend in the right direction. We've got so much Star Wars coming out before then that here's hoping that by the time they start, Star Wars is healthy again. It's in a good spot to where they can take the risks they need to take to ensure we get a solid film.
Any follow-up thoughts there, Johnny?
Not really.
The correct answer was yes. Anyways, yeah, I think anything Star Wars related is going to be met with a healthy amount of skepticism, and rightfully so. That's what they've earned, right? Like, I was listening to the way you were describing that, and as you were describing it, you've come across like one of those hopeful sports fans that knows their team's just not quite good enough to be a contender. But if you get this go right for you, and that go right for you, and this go right for you, and that go right for you, maybe, just maybe, you can qualify for the playoffs, and then maybe you can go on a run, and maybe you can get to the championship. Like,
I
Well, I
always
am
expect
a
the
I
Dallas
am a
Cowboys
Mets
fan,
fan. I'll tell you, I am a Mets fan. So
that also works.
I mean, in fairness, we're Blue Jays fans, so yeah, it's
We know our path. It's fire Ross Atkins, and we'll be fine.
I think they both need to go, but that's just me.
Well, I do as well, but one more than the other. Because at least Shapiro has improved the building.
That's true. That being said, I don't think Shapiro's going to fire the other is the problem.
Neither do I, but
There was another Star Wars topic to have. I don't have my other phone with me. Do you guys see what it is on the notes?
you had...
I thought it was something on Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah.
So we might have talked about it last week, that there was a report that they'd finished filming, and it turns out that they've only finished a segment of it, and that they basically still have more to go through the end of December. So the Mandalorian Grogu will be shooting for a couple more months, which sounds a little more realistic in terms of getting your full production done from what we were talking about prior. We also know that this worries me a bit, but like they're very much puzzle piecing this together around people's schedules, and man, and this is the final question of the show, but like, are you guys not at all worried that we're going to go see the Mandalorian and Grogu, and it's just going to feel like, here's 4 episodes of the Disney Plus series. That's your movie. That's what we did. Like, to me, it needs to feel like a movie. It cannot feel like the TV series.
It's going to be tough, I think, to sort of make that distinction, because I don't think there's going to be much they can do in the movie that they couldn't necessarily do in the TV series. Um, they've had the big set pieces in the TV series. They've had the big battles in the TV series. So, unless you exponentially up the scale, I don't know how much of that is going to be true. I think for me, it needs to tell a story sort of differently from the series, in a different way than the series, because a lot of the events and things that they've done in the series are what we're going to see on the big screen. It just has to differentiate itself in such a way that I can sit there and be like, well, this movie at the end of the day cost me probably $60 to come to this theater and see it, with all of the sort of expenses associated with going to a theater outside of just buying your ticket. I need to walk out of that and say, this was worth every penny I spent here, and not, I could watch this on Disney Plus and been just as happy as I am right now. How they're going to go about doing that, I don't know. But that's the important thing for me. You need to do it in such a way that I feel justified in the added expense as a fan going to a theater to watch this, versus you could have released this in 4 parts on Disney Plus and it wouldn't have been any different for me, and it would have cost me a hell of a lot less.
See, I feel like for this is one of the benefits of them having Jon Favreau around, is because he understands the difference between TV and film. He's made a lot of good films, and he did kind of help jumpstart the MCU with Iron Man. So it's not like he doesn't know how the flow of the film needs to go, and I think that's going to be the key. I think the pacing of the film, the dialogue, just the story all around, does it fit 1.5 to 2 hours, and does it feel grandiose enough? Because right now we know this is going to be part of this huge buildup to whatever Filoni's got cooking for, once Ahsoka season 2 happens, and his movie happens, and just this huge thing. This is a piece of that. So we know that there has to be something here that is, story wise, is big enough and worth telling on the big screen, versus giving us season 4 of The Mandalorian. And as much as we've obviously had issues with that in recent TV series. Obviously, we've had issues with the movies. I don't think this comes in as a movie unless they have a plan in place to make it feel that much bigger than what they could have shown on Disney Plus. I mean, I could be wrong, just because I don't, I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know all the rumors. I don't follow a lot of that stuff. But to me, that's the only way you put it on the big screen. You obviously, they're going to cash in on Grogu's name, but also it just has to feel big, and that they have to spare no expense in terms of production value. We know the music's going to be there. We know the character. We know, like, Pedro Pascal is going to do. Is going to play his part well, whether it's through just straight voice acting or what few scenes they have without his mask on, without the helmet on. It's really just going to boil down to just how big this story is and how it fits going forward with everything they've got planned for what Filoni's vision is for his big reveal leading to his movie and this huge galactic threat that we know is coming.
Lots of I'm not even going to try to say that right now. I'm way too tired. But yeah. I feel like Thrawn is a gimme. Like, it's an easy here he is, even if it's just at the end of the movie to lead forward into the next one. You give people some Thrawn. We know Zeb's going to be in it. We don't really know what the story of the movie is, but it does. To me, it doesn't need to feel like a movie. It cannot feel like 3 or 4 episodes of TV. Any final thoughts, Johnny?
No.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us. Apologize for keeping it short tonight, but the throat is killing me. And no, that's not what she said. But you can support us by liking the stream/video, leaving a comment, turning notifications to all so you can keep up to date with all of our content. We got more Supernatural Revisited coming. And might have some surprises in store. One thing I do want to do between now and Christmas is a Star Wars watch party on one of these. I don't know what we're gonna watch right now. I've really, really been leaning towards The Force Awakens. I wanted to feel in a positive Star Wars mind space the last little while, so I started watching reviews to The Force Awakens when it first came out and how positive everyone was. And boy, what a different time when you consider how that reception was compared to where we are today. Just incredible. But yeah, I wouldn't mind doing something like that. Bringing back Johnny's favorite thing here for too long, trivia. But we'll see how that goes. Johnny, where can everybody find you at? What do you got going on?
Oh, here, there, and everywhere, probably between now and next week. You'll just find me here.
Or maybe they'll find you there.
Or anywhere.
Maybe not anywhere.
Who knows?
Randy.
Well, obviously Tuesdays I'll be here with you guys doing our thing. Obviously on X you can find me at Giggity Giles. Just doing my best to grow my page a little bit just so we can try to get more stuff out there. I know we've taken a break with the sports brew a little bit, but hopefully we'll get back into that soon. Keywords are sports and brew. If you guys are interested in sports, drinking, and bullshit, because that's kind of what we are all about for that podcast.
I'm a Leafs fan. Sounds like I'd fit right in. But anyways, thanks to Kieran who had something come up, but was here for the first little bit of the show. For Johnny and Randy, I'm Sean. We'll see you again when the Empire calls.